blockade which was a flagrant violation of international law, a blockade which was destroying a civilization. Those people who say Hamas should not have resisted are in effect saying that the people of Gaza had a legal and a moral obligation to just lie still and die. But Israel decided to expedite the process, to accelerate it, and on December 27, 2008, Israel invaded Gaza. And it remained in Gaza for the next 22 days until January 17th, what Amnesty International called the 22 days of death and destruction. Well, what did happen in Gaza during those 22 days? Nowadays, when you hear discussion about Gaza to the extent that it's even remembered, people talk about a war in Gaza. There was a war in Gaza, the Gaza War. But was there a war in Gaza? Israel says, well, there was a war, and as many people died, and there was a lot of destruction. All those things happened during wars, so we ought not to be too surprised. And Israel itself was rather pleased by the outcome of what happened in Gaza. It went around saying that now we've shown the Arabs who's who and what's what, that Israel had suffered a major military defeat in Lebanon in July, August 2006, and now Israel has restored what it calls its deterrence capacity, namely the Arab world's fear of Israel. And it said we restored our deterrence capacity because we won the war in Gaza. We won the war in Gaza. So they were quite pleased with the outcome. But then along came an Israeli strategic analyst, and he said, it's very dangerous for Israel to believe it won the war, but there was no war in Gaza. In reality, not a single battle was fought during the 22 days of fighting. A former Israeli foreign ministry official, he said, there was no war. Hamas sat in its bunkers and came out when it was all over. Well, if there was no war in Gaza, what did happen in Gaza? On a military level, it was fairly straightforward, not controversial. Israel began the assault on Gaza with what it called the air phase of the war. And by the end of the 22 days, it had flown about 3,000, 2,800, 3,000 combat missions over Gaza. All the planes returned. Not a single plane was down. In fact, not a single plane was even harmed, which is not altogether too surprising because Hamas had no anti-aircraft defenses. After the first week, Israel began what it called its ground and air assault on Gaza, the land invasion. Well, the Israeli soldiers had special night fighting warfare. Hamas could not even see them. So, there were no battles, there was no fighting. Hamas couldn't even see the Israeli soldiers. So what did happen in Gaza? In fact, we have a pretty good picture of what happened because many Israeli soldiers, after the 22 days, they came forward and they gave testimony as to their personal experience, what they witnessed while they were there. So here's what some of the soldiers said. Soldier, there was nothing there. Ghost towns, except for some livestock, nothing moved. Soldier, most of the time it was boring. There were not really too many events. Soldier, I did not see one single Arab the whole time we were there, that whole week. Soldier, everyone was disappointed about not engaging anyone. Soldier, usually we did not see a living soul, except for our soldiers, of course, not a soul. Soldier, ask the other soldiers how often they encountered combatants in Gaza. Nothing. No one. Soldier. There was supposed to be a tiny resistance force when we entered Gaza. There just wasn't any. No battles, no fighting, no enemy in the field, no foe to tangle with. That's only half the story. For the other half of the story, it's well worth it for you yourselves.